So the first one I want to go through is top down. So this is in a very hierarchical sense. This is the leaders of an organization telling their stories. So at one point I was working with a COO who really needed to draft a new mission, vision, and values for her organization. And I really encouraged her in order to get buy-in and get the best possible mission, vision, and value statement to pose it to the organization. I mean, it was a fairly small company and would have been fairly easy to do. And at one point, she was kind of resistant and I couldn't really figure out why. And at one point, she finally said, "I'm afraid to ask for people's help because wouldn't they assume that I already knew what our mission, vision, and values were? Wouldn't it look bad that I was asking for help with that?" And I said, "Well, I can understand why you would think that. However, I was at a company previously, the scooter store, where the CEO engaged all of us with developing our mission and our values. And it actually made me feel included. It made me feel like my opinion mattered. And when I saw some of the things that I had said show up in the mission and the values, I felt valued." And so she went forward with it and she said, "Okay, I will do it." That's not the impactful part. So she did it. She ended up with an amazing mission statement, vision, and values. And then at the next all hands, she actually shared with the company what she was afraid of. She actually told them, "I was concerned that you would think less of me, or you would think that I didn't know what I was doing if I asked for help. And I'm sorry for even thinking that, because you as a company came through. And I'm so glad that we did this together." And that set such an example, not just that she asked for their help with the mission, but that she actually told her story about being afraid, because it made her more relatable. And it also gave everyone else in the organization permission to also say, "I don't know," or "I need help." And it was such a tremendous example that she set just by telling her story of being afraid. So the next one is what I would call bottom up, telling stories internally from the team level. And doing this creates a sense of safety and a sense of, if they can do it, then we can do it. So at an organization that I was with recently, one of our teams was especially courageous. And when they began telling stories about their experiments, whether they were failures or successes, and then we as leaders were affirming and praising their risk taking, it gave everyone else permission to do the same. Not only to take risks, but to tell their stories about it. And so these can be very powerful. This is what was missing at that client that I was talking about. Like, there were these great things going on in teams, but no one knew about them outside of the team. And so at this recent organization, we actually had a channel in Slack that was called storytelling. And I would have scrum masters or different employees come to me and say, "Oh my goodness, we had this great thing happen." Or, "We really struggled through this, our last retro, but on the other side of it, man, there was like really cool actions that came out of it." And I became well known for responding, "That's amazing. Would you feel comfortable sharing that on the storytelling channel?" To the point that it kind of became funny because everyone knew I was going to ask that. But they did, like, they started telling their stories, which again, others learned from whatever the story was, whatever the success or the failure was, others learned from it, but they also began to feel permission to tell their own story, which was just as powerful. I will say that some of the stories that were told in that channel actually inspired us to create or change policies as a result. So the stories don't just help other teams, but they actually help the leaders as well.